You need one that's written on a scroll and parchment with some ink from unicorn tears. Fucking hell. Honestly, the things I've had to do for like the admin. It's a dead Santa.
Welcome back to It's a Death Sentence.
Thanks, Carrie. Welcome to you also.
Thank you. So today we're doing something slightly different.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, okay, so you're dead.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
Exactly. We have been through our own journeys, realising just the complexity of what you have to do in an administrative role once somebody dies. So whilst there are loads of kind of how-to guides available online, so a lot of charities have done some really brilliant work, we thought we would go through it almost like an interview, I think, to try and highlight what has to happen. And in this particular edition, we are talking about if you die in a hospital. So for each place that you might die, it's different, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the never-ending admin that comes along with all the things that happen when you die.
So
admin.
Admin. And ironically, we sort of, it is about my dad, this one. But I think, you know, I learned from you that not everyone is referred to the coroner. So in this episode particularly, we are talking about if you have a loved one who dies in a hospital and wants to be cremated, let's say. So we are going to take you through a step-by-step of how that looks.
For just laughing at your notes because it says, don't die on a bank holiday.
Yeah. Well, I think that's my opener. Don't fucking die on a bank holiday.
Absolutely not. Because everybody goes home early, darling, and nobody's in.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, you must know about this, Carrie, through like your work. So what happens on a bank holiday? Do you go to work?
No.
No, I fucking don't. I sit and drink gin in the garden like everybody else.
Absolutely.
But actually, my dad did die on a bank holiday. So he died on the Friday.
And they were like, sorry, come back to us Tuesday.
Literally, that's how it worked. So, yeah, my advice to anybody is, you know, just hold out. Hold out. Don't die on a bank holiday.
Yeah, drink the gin,
but
like everybody else.
What my point is that actually we tend to think of everybody sort of rallying around because somebody's died and they're all moving really quickly, and none of that is accurate in any way at all. And if you do happen to have somebody die on a bank holiday weekend, expect it to take longer because it's going to.
And they don't rush anyway. I mean, like the worst has already happened, doesn't it? You know?
Yeah.
And although it feels like they should rush it through because it's your death, they deal with lots of them, so they don't. So how to get your loved one from a hospital all the way through to the undertaker. This is what we're discussing today.
Yeah.
So the hospital staff, number one, will inform you about the death if you are not present.
Yeah, well, they will.
Or will they?
Or will they? So, you know, my dad died about 45 minutes after I left the hospital on that bank holiday Friday. And they started to ring me and I didn't have my phone on. And they rang my sister. And by the time I'd looked at my phone, just under an hour later, my sister's ringing me frantically. And she said, the hospital have rang. They've told us to come straight in. And they've just said he was found unresponsive and you've got to come in straight away. And then she said, but it doesn't sound good. And so I immediately went into full-scale panic.
But that sounds to me like he's still alive at that point.
Yes, doesn't it? Doesn't it? But he wasn't. He was dead and they didn't tell us on the phone.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of theories around this. Don't know whether they're right. Don't know if you can shed any light. But I go back to one of my children was very poorly as an infant and needed a lot of help. And when they rang my then husband, they would not disclose what was happening on the phone to him.
I wonder if it's so they don't panic you.
I don't know, but they you know, it was significant. He needed to get there very quickly. And I wonder whether that's the case here, that they won't tell you something so shocking on the phone, or in this situation, it was really shocking to all of the staff as well because he died quite suddenly after picking up that day, whether they were actually in shock themselves. And when we got there, I would say they were quite fraught, is the word I'd use. And I got there a couple of minutes after my sister and she actually had to say to them, is my dad dead?
Wow, the actual words.
The actual words, because she said they were like, for want of a better term, pussyfooting around it. And she's like, why are you telling me about non-resuscitation and this, that and the other?
Is he alive or not?
So, the role of the hospital is obviously to tell you that your loved one is deceased. But how they deliver that is,
a pile of old shit.
is very subjective. It will be dependent on who's working.
Yeah, I know.
Most of the staff that we dealt with were either not doctors, so medical professionals, but, care staff, auxiliary staff, just people that happened to be there. There wasn't a doctor.
Yeah.
And the nurse that was there when they did try and resuscitate was quite visibly shocked when we arrived.
I can imagine she was, I suppose. It probably wasn't a ward where they would expect to be doing resus.
They'd been moved. Yeah, they'd been moved. And he actually had a do not resuscitate as well, so good on them.
But they did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck that right up. But yeah,
grey areas there.
It is their role to tell you. So in an ideal situation, you will either be with your loved one in a hospital when they pass away. Ideal. For everybody else, it is the role of the hospital to call you and let you know. Hopefully, they'll just bring you and tell you, or they might ask you to come in urgently.
I do know of somebody who went to be with their relative when they passed away, and they were there when they took their last breath. They stopped breathing, blah, blah, blah. And then a young doctor came in about 10 minutes later and started doing all these checks and went, she knew that she'd passed away, this lady.
Yeah.
He said, just to let you know, she's actually passed away. And she went, no shit, Sherlock.
Fuck. Do you know, it happened to one of my sister's friends.
Madness.
Say medical staff came in after this, I think it was their grandparent had died, and started to do checks on the body like it was alive, and she had to tell them they're dead.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
And I mean, these are just stories that we know off the top of our heads,
Yeah. Fucking awful.
So yeah, I mean, I hope you're enjoying the how-to guide so far.
How not to.
How fucking not to, right. Yeah.
So if your loved one dies in hospital, they will be moved to the mortuary, which they sometimes refer to as Rose Cottage.
Well, this is so interesting. So when I said this, was it to you recently?
Yeah.
I said, the hospital mortuary where my dad was, it's called Rose Cottage. And you gave me this look. We were with somebody else who works in the industry.
Yeah.
Who were we with?
Suzanne.
Suzanne. And you both said to me, no, Rose Cottage is this generic term that's used. And when they said it to me, I had this really weird image of a beautiful little Tudor cottage with some roses around the door.
Absolutely.
And,
that's exactly what conjures to my mind.
I actually said to them, where is the hospital mortuary? And they're like, and one of them didn't know. They said, we've got to go and get somebody else, who then gave me some literature about ringing the bereavement team, which we come on to in a bit, but it was vague, really vague. And actually it was the same when my mum died. I wanted to know where the fuck they are physically. I needed to know that. I don't know whether I'm alone in this. I think lots of people must feel like it. But I was like, thank you. And how is Rose Cottage accessed?
I'm sure he would have preferred that when he was fucking living. Nice little spa break.
Nice sea view.
A nice little Airbnb called Rose Cottage.
So, the hospital then take the deceased to the hospital mortuary, which is, as you know, now referred to as Rose Cottage. And from there, you allocate an undertaker or a funeral director. This is interesting. Is there a difference between an undertaker and a funeral director? No.
Same thing.
It's just wording.
Terminology.
Yeah. So,
which I think the use of the term Rose Cottage is down to using the word mortuary or in
UK hospitals, it's very rare that you'll see a sign that says morgue or mortuary. You used to, a long time ago, but they stopped doing it.
Yeah, they don't want to offend anybody. I mean, God forbid we offend everyone.
Oh my God, honestly.
That, are going to die anyway.
So for me, we happened to know who we would use because during our lovely podcast, we'd interviewed a natural undertaking. We'll give them a shout out because we really enjoyed interviewing them, and
their ethos.
Their ethos. And they were very, very good to me personally. However, they were up against it as I was, having Dad die on a bank holiday. So actually, yes, he went to the hospital mortuary, which will happen in anybody's case. But could they go and get him before the following Wednesday? Because actually they can't go and get him without you having a death certificate. And the death certificate has to be provided by the registrar,
which also have a bank holiday.
Exactly. So it's just a long line of, oh my fucking God, we can't do that. Yeah.
So it is the family's responsibility to arrange the funeral and to pay, obviously, funeral directors.
And there will be situations where people can't pay. And at that point, they look at what's probate, if there's anything in the estate. And in a very, very sad situation,
social services,
council, social services will step in. So you must come across this, Carrie.
Yeah, we get lots of social services referrals, and actually, with living family members, not just with people who haven't got anyone living, but just with people who just can't afford it.
So
and
sad.
Social services, they do provide a very basic service for people.
But legally, where I've looked into that framework, it is, your next of kin are legally responsible to pay for a funeral. And there's very little you can do about that other than try and keep your costs down. But of course,
bury them in the garden.
We know you can do that. Yeah. But you've still got to hire a digger. I wouldn't recommend
Don't
doing
just
it.
leave them out like a body farm.
Nice.
So we're coming on to personal possessions. So when your loved one goes into hospital, they should be checked by the nursing team who check them in. So if they come in with dentures, they should leave with dentures, whether they come in alive and leave dead or whether they come in alive and leave alive. Yeah. And the same goes for possessions like rings, jewellery, whatever else. And then again, that should happen when they leave the ward.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So when Dad died, you'll remember that I rang you. So they said to me when we left that night, do you want to take his wedding ring? And actually, I just sat with him, with my sister for some time, and I'd had enough then. And I was like, no, keep it on him, and we'll make sure we've got it when we got the undertakers to come and get him. But then, once the undertakers had gone and got him, which was the following Wednesday, they rang me and said his wedding ring wasn't on him. So then I had so I rang you, Carrie, and I was like, what should happen? And you explained to me that there's the register of items as they come into hospital alive, and that register, if they were leaving alive, should correlate with their possessions.
And even if they're leaving dead?
Yeah, but when
they change wards even.
But let me just tell you this colossal fuck up just for entertainment purposes. So we're looking for this missing wedding ring, and I start panicking and I start thinking the worst, to be honest. I'm thinking somebody's had it off him, which is just bloody awful way to feel. And I was wrong. So, put my hands up to that. However, when you ring, we rang for the items that he was entered into the hospital with, and they told me that they had his contact lenses and his contact lens fluid. And I said, well, that is surprising because he's never worn them.
But yet you can't find his ring.
And I said, is it possible you are looking at the wrong person? And she said, in a very kind of diplomatic and yet disgruntled way, no, it's just that this has been entered in, as in, it's not my fucking fault. Somebody said he's got contact lenses. I mean, this man has got Alzheimer's and a tremor. Yeah. Is he wearing contact lenses?
His contacts are the last of his worries.
No. So they gave me the wrong information, probably about somebody else. And actually, although the wedding ring actually turned out to be in the nursing home he lived in, the possessions were not recorded accurately. So do be careful of this. So if you've got a loved one going into hospital, it would be worth you doing an account of their possessions, and anything they don't need, I'd take away with you.
Take the rings off.
Take the fucking rings off.
Take them off.
Yeah.
Take anything you want off. Yeah. My advice would be, if somebody's going in and you know that they're very poorly or they're elderly, or there's a likelihood that they won't be coming out of the hospital, take the possessions away from them because they don't need them. And they can be reunited with them if you wanted to bury them with the rings or whatever. They can be reunited at another time.
So those things.
What's worse is if you lose them.
These are the sentimental items that we're talking about, aren't they? But even like basic kind of the practicality. So if your loved one is in hospital and can't use their mobile phone, I'd take it with you because sadly these environments are not policed or guarded particularly well.
Absolutely not. It always staggers me the amount of people who lose fucking teeth when they go into the hospital.
As in dentures?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Or like they go in with dentures.
Or hearing aids, I suppose.
Yeah, and they never get reunited with them. God. It's horrible, really.
Yeah, not nice.
Well, where's the dignity, I always think. Yeah. They wouldn't be seen in life without their fucking gnashes in.
No.
Let them have them back. Do you know what I mean?
Don't give them the wrong
how have you been feeding them?
Just some extra teeth.
Yeah. How have you been feeding them, though? Have they been eating? Oh, that's why they're fucking dead, probably.
Don't get me started on that. I mean, fucking hell. Could they identify my dad? Did they know who he was? Did they know what he was allergic to? No.
So we know that he's your loved one's dead, and the hospital's probably fogged up in some way or another, and you've appointed your funeral director.
Yep.
Hopefully some lovely ladies who are going to run the thing for you. What do you do about registering the death?
So this is an interesting one. So registering a death you have to do with your local authority. However, be aware that if you live somewhere that has more than one registrar office, you can allocate your own. So for me, I had the choice of 3 different offices. So one that was most local to me wasn't the most useful because they didn't have the appointments. Because again, you're looking at a backlog from a bank holiday. So we actually went for the one that had the most available, earliest available appointment. But you can choose in a situation where perhaps there isn't a backlog. I would suggest you choose whatever is most local and convenient to you. So you'll make an appointment and then you'll be asked to bring some kind of identification, which actually we weren't asked for and we didn't need. But yeah, you'll make that appointment, but the cause of death from the medical examiner has to come first.
Right. So once you've had the cause of death, then you get this appointment to register before you can move on with anything else.
Yeah, before
that needs to be done.
You can't do anything else. And without the death certificate, you can't do fucking anything. So getting the medical examiner and their cause of death, they then, once they've determined that and you've agreed it, you might dispute it, and that is a kind of different story, which we could come on to. But let's say they've come up with a cause of death and you've said, yeah, I'll agree with that, that's fine. They then actually send that document, the cause of death, the medical certificate, directly to the registrar. It's not something you have to go and pick up. You used to, but now they send it directly so that when you get to your appointment at the registrar, they've already got it, and it's all
it's all digital now, isn't it? It's all digital. Yeah. So the medical examiner is someone who works for the hospital.
Yeah.
And they say yay or nay on the cause of death if they're happy with it. Like you said, if you contest it, that's another story. That's when it may go to the coroner, but we'll cover that in another episode.
It's a really, really interesting one, but maybe at this stage what I would say is what I learnt was really interesting, which is it has to be agreed at 60%. I mean, how the fuck do they work?
I mean, it's over 50.
So the medical examiner is not necessarily somebody that ever saw your loved one alive. It should be done in correlation with somebody who actually cared for your loved one. All I'd say at this point is I saw in the 2.5 days my dad was in such an enormous amount of staff, and that's why no one knew his name, and that's why no one knew what he was allergic to, and that's why no one answered any of my questions properly. So yeah, if you've got a medical examiner and somebody who took very vague notes throughout their care, looking at something and going, okay, well, I can see blood poisoning here and this and this and this. Do we agree?
Looks about right.
Looks about right. And I feel like it's a bit of that. And actually, when it came to it for us, I did have the option of sending Dad to the coroner, and we chose not to because I felt quite certain from a conversation I had with the medical examiner that A, he's not coming back, and B, he probably went pretty quickly and without suffering too much. But was his cause of death on the death certificate the cause of death? No, it wasn't. And I have to live with that. Me and my sister chose that would be the better option for us as opposed to delaying it even further.
And for him, for his body.
And for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't refuse the coroner if they decide they want a PM. A post-mortem.
I was going to ask you that.
It's a legal requirement. So
if they'd have said to me, we're not happy with this cause of death.
So if the medical examiner said, I'm not happy with the cause of death, it would be referred to the coroner.
And I couldn't
the coroner would
then.
No, the coroner would then look at the information, also take into account the family wishes.
Yeah.
And they would look at everything as the case as a whole, and they would then decide whether we would proceed to a post-mortem. So then it dropped down into my box.
Could it be the case that, let's say, I wasn't happy with what happened?
You can request a post-mortem.
Yeah, well, they did say to me we could have one. But imagine if they'd have said he has to have one, but I didn't want it.
That wouldn't have mattered.
The reversal. They would have just gone ahead.
They would have done it anyway. It's a legal requirement.
That must be very
because it's the coroner's duty
for people.
And I do think that's why a lot of we'll talk about being referred to the coroner another day, but a lot of family, when they do get referred to the coroner, they are quite angry and anxious because they don't necessarily want that to happen to their loved one.
Well, I'd imagine
but it is a legal requirement.
Yeah.
So the medical examiner will take into your wishes, like you said. So you and your sister said, well, we know it's not exactly right, but we're happy with it. And 60%, I mean, I think that's fairly low to write a certificate.
It's so low. I mean, and it also, it depends how much. The medical examiner actually said to me, you've got a cause for complaint. We suggest you make one. And I just thought, wow, that's pretty heavy going. But in this situation, more often than not, you're already not behind schedule. That's the wrong way to put it. But it's been delayed, and if that person doesn't really need to go to the coroner, and you're kind of satisfied to a greater or lesser extent, then you can progress and move on.
So who is it that you need to talk to? Who deals with it? Is it the bereavement team?
Yeah, so once you're in the hospital, in the presence of whoever's delivered you the news, they will give you a pack or some kind of pamphlet flyer type thing with the details of the bereavement team. So each hospital, each major hospital will have a bereavement team, and that is a phone number that you then ring to get things moving. So when you first ring, they'll identify that person and make sure it's who you want it to be. Although, I mean, I did think that was fairly vague as well. I just thought, not that I want to go and pick up any old dead body. I don't, actually, but
that's my job.
I wasn't actually required at any point to prove who I was.
Yeah.
I thought that was weird.
I think they do take your word for it, because most people don't just want to pick up a dead body.
Yeah. So imagine if there was a family disputed anyway about how that person was going to be
we do have that
buried.
sometimes.
Yeah, do you?
At our place, but yeah.
Yeah.
So the bereavement team are like your first point of contact, really, and do they sort of like bring it all together for you? This is what you need to do. This is your next bit.
They also, so once you've appointed your funeral director or undertaker, whatever you want to call them, they liaise with them directly. So your funeral director will call the bereavement team to organise the collection of the deceased.
Okay. So can you go and see your loved one in the hospital mortuary?
It's really interesting. So I only looked at this whilst doing the research for this episode, and I would have just assumed not, because most people are moved from the hospital mortuary to their undertaker of choice quite quickly. However, you actually can, but not in all hospitals, which is interesting, because I did choose to see Dad sadly much later on. But would I have gone to see him in the hospital mortuary given the chance? I don't know. It certainly wasn't something that was made.
It wasn't given as an option.
No. But from what I've read, is they will try and accommodate that in a lot of places. So if you want to, I'd ask the question.
So can go and see them. And I mean,
some places you can't, and I imagine that'll be down to size and where they're being stored and whether they think it's appropriate or whatever. But yeah, I think if you do want to do that, then I would just ask the question. Ask, can't go wrong.
Well, if you don't ask, you don't get, I suppose. Yeah. So you've got your registration of the death. Mm-hmm. You've got your, put my teeth back in.
Which two?
Make sure they're mine, not somebody else's.
Ones that were left on the wall.
You've spoke to the bereavement team. You've appointed your funeral director. You've got your cause of death. Yeah. You've got your medical certificate. You have been to register your death.
You've got the death certificate. The death certificate, this is interesting. You'll get a death certificate. They'll ask you if you want some more copies. 100% yes, you do. They're like 12, 14 quid each, whatever. We got 4. We needed 5.
Right.
And it's easier to get them in that instance than go back for them.
Because you need them for your dadmin, for your death admin.
Honestly, the things that you need them for are outrageous. So you'll need them if there's any pensions that are paying out. You'll need them if they were ex-forces. You'll need them for all kinds of things, for probate. So my advice would be to get at least 4.
So what actually happens when you get to the registry office? You go in for your appointment?
Yeah, you go in for your appointment a bit like if you were going to get married or register a birth. It's the same. It's the same registrar that's doing it more often than not. So you go into a quite nice...
Does she get the black ledger out for deaths?
Yeah.
The red one?
The Grim Reaper's in the corner.
Yeah.
With this side.
Nice.
Yeah, well, that's just how it works, I think. It's just a stand. No, so you go into an office space. I mean, it was quite interestingly, we went to the same registrar for both my dad and my mom, but it was in a different building because 10 years had passed. So it was actually in a much nicer building, and it was quite clean and modern, all the rest of it. And it was quite a short experience. They do some bit of identification, but I mean, like, we had all these documents that we didn't have to use, ask you a few questions, and, they're very nicely spoken and say sorry for your loss, and off you go.
And get plenty of copies of your death certificate.
Get plenty of copies of your death certificate. It is pretty straightforward, that part is. Then you do it all online, you book it all online. Yeah.
So it's surprised they don't send you a digital copy.
You're not allowed a digital copy in a digital world, Carrie. That would be too easy. You need one that's written on a scroll and parchment with some ink from unicorn tears. Fucking hell. Honestly, the things I've had to do for like the admin, there was one company, it was one of the pensions that my dad was in receipt of. I had to not only prove his death, but I had to prove my mum was dead as well.
I mean, she's only been dead a little while.
Fucking hell, I couldn't believe it. And they wanted her, I don't know if I had to send her a death certificate, I can't remember now, but they wanted to know her, when did she die and is she definitely dead? And I'm like, well, fucking last time I looked, yeah. Jesus Christ. I mean, and all this...
So she's in a box.
This admin...
In the living room.
This admin comes through and it all starts with the same generic bollocks, which is, we're so sorry for your loss. However, we have overpaid you by £207 and we'd like it back.
Oh, God. So once you've got your death certificate, finally, you've done all your registrar, you can now appoint your funeral director and say, please.
It's worth noting you can appoint the funeral director before, and I actually would definitely recommend doing that because you can start to have all those conversations. So that's what we did. We had a really clear idea of what we wanted. For some people you won't. If you don't know that person's wishes, if you don't, that's a different story and it gets complicated. But I would appoint your funeral director before any of it. Although they can't physically act on it, you can get the ball rolling with what kind of service you want, who's going to be a celebrant, what music you're going to have, what coffin are they going to have. You can decide all of these things prior to that death certificate because one way or the other, it's going to happen. So you're better off getting a foot ahead. I would recommend doing that. Otherwise, you'll just delay it further.
And were you able to book it quite soon once you decided?
Yeah, so the role,
you had all that ready and you knew what service you wanted.
Role of the funeral director will literally, you tell them what you want and they facilitate it. And ours were really good because we wanted a few additional things and we wanted a few bits that were a bit more quirky, shall we say. But it's their role, for example, if you're having a cremation, to organise with the creme directly. You're not ringing the creme for an appointment. They do that as part of their service.
Okay. So that's good. So they organise either with the creme or if someone's going to be buried, they organise that and they'll say, this is your start. This is what time they're your kind of agent, if you like. You describe how you would like that funeral service to go, whether it's in a church or whether it's in a creme, whatever. And then, their job is to facilitate it and be that medium person in the middle that deals with all of it directly so that you're not having to do that while you're in the throes of grief. Yeah, because it's confusing enough, don't we know?
Fucking hell.
So that is it in a nutshell. Yeah. That is how you get your loved one who's passed away, died, should I say, in hospital. Yeah. How you get them to the funeral directors. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's, there are, like I said earlier, there are some really good online documents that you can reference. But what we've just taken you through is typically what it will look like. And the steps you're required to do by law.
And if in doubt, ask, and they probably won't be able to tell you the answer.
And usually the bereavement team at the hospital are pretty good. There won't be much that they haven't been asked before. So if you're new to the world of death, which sadly we weren't, they will walk you through a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they will find somebody sensible. Somebody will know.
Yeah. I mean, there just are a lot of people that don't know.
I think some of it is that they don't know how to talk to people.
No, they don't.
I don't know if it's that they don't know what is going to happen. They don't know how to word it.
The doctors and medical professionals are given a great deal of training in delivering the news of a deceased. I just don't think that's how it appears to me, unless they're in a hospice environment.
Yeah.
And you've got palliative care. Very different, really, really different. But I think if
it happens suddenly.
Yeah, I don't think that they are that equipped for it, and which is probably through no fault of their own. It's probably not in the training. It's not in the fucking manual. That's what else.
Well, anyway, this is So Now You're Dead.
So Now You're Dead, brought to you by Carrie and Emma, and it's a death sentence.
So lovely to talk to you again, Emma, as always.
Yeah, love you,
Thank you for listening, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to It's a Death Sentence. Please keep listening to our weekly episodes.
And if you like our show, please like, share and subscribe.
We are dying to talk to you.